In any healing process, the first step is acknowledgement. And I think for Māori that's been a really difficult thing to achieve.
With the Anglican Church and the apology that happened up there at Cliff Road up there, that was all part of the healing.
To have the Church Missionary Society stop and have an occasion like that to make those apologies was significant.
It's not about denying it, it's not about trying to make everything right, but it's about going back to that conversation and how can we move past it positively.
It must get better.
How can we do this better? How can we live together in a better way? So it's called reconciliation.
The only thing that's going to stop us from moving forward as a nation is to keep avoiding a conversation because, I don't know what people hoped for before, but we're 180 odd years in and the treaty hasn't gone away. I know people would love to just bury it somewhere and push it to the side, but the fact is our ancestors on both sides signed it. And so the more we can do about just coming back together and working our way through things, the better. And I think the apology was symbolic of us actually making a commitment to figure out what we're going to do going forward, no matter how complicated that might be.
So the apology was an acknowledgement that the trust deed was broken. In doing that, I think for the first time, mana whenua felt vindicated in the fact that a grievance had been going on unaddressed for 180 years. And we had this idea of bringing that deed back to life.
And so what the Commission's been working towards is how do we reconcile that deep history and that disconnection and use this as an opportunity to reconnect mana whenua back into the space. And part of that is through the design process and working closely in a co-design arrangement with mana whenua, and the site itself would be owned by both council and mana whenua.
Yeah, it was probably one of my proudest days working for Tauranga City Council, the day we formally signed the document that said from that point on the land would be owned jointly. We happened to have the Prime Minister in town. We had all of the key players from Tauranga City Council, mana whenua, tangata whenua, and we all came together for what was just a really moving ceremony.
And so that was a unique opportunity for us to reconcile that deep history and connection to the place and kind of revitalise, I suppose, the intent of what the early missionaries had.
Historically, mana whenua had been excluded from the process, and there was a very clear instruction from the commissioners to say they have a seat at the table. This is a project that's going from being divisive culturally to be one of reconciliation. And it's incredibly humbling to see that this site, which has historically been a site of a lot of wrongs, is now being used as a site of reconciliation, of restoration, and of civic pride and partnership.
That partnership and that recognition that and the role that the church played, that's all part of that story, and that's why that partnership is so significant, because despite all of that, we're here together today building a new heart for the city.
It also recognises that once upon a time, it was our heartbeat as a people, as Ngai Tamarawaho. Our people lived in the area, they grew mara there, and it was very much an integral part of us.
And I think this project in itself is an opportunity for us to draw from the past, to work now together collaboratively to shape a future where together we might be able to cohabitate in complementary ways, in ways that are particularly meaningful but beneficial.
We're very fortunate and privileged to be able to work with mana whenua in such a positive manner to decide and understand what the future use of that land would be, the buildings that might be built on that land, how they would be used, what they would look like.
Instead of having council chambers, we're going to have what's been called the civic whare. So it'll look like a big meeting house, right? A big outdoor plaza area so that we can, welcome visitors to the city in a proper traditional way. We'll have a new library, a new exhibition space, a new museum space.
Having a museum in Tauranga opens that waharo or that gateway to tell the story that isn't written in history books.
It can be a focal point of those stories about those who went before us and why things are the way they are.
We've got a wonderful textile collection, we've got a documentary collection, we have a wonderful natural history collection, of course the Tonga collection. It's the only collection in the world that tells our stories. I just can't wait to be able to share this wonderful collection with the people of Tauranga and the country and international visitors. It's incredibly exciting.
Having a museum, I feel, it certainly will be of huge benefit to the people to know the history of this place. The good, the bad and the ugliest, the stories will be out there in full force. And I think that will be wonderful for both the Europeans and the Māori of this area.
And what I'd love to see dearly is that as mana whenua, we would be acknowledged in terms of employment opportunities, training opportunities, to actually take our place there, to be able to be the people to tell the stories that need to be told. I really believe that that would be a long way to reconciliation. We want to be able to be the kaimahi, to actually do the work in that space, because the whenua is so important to us as a people, given that we lost so much.
Cities are a lot more than pipes and roads and footpaths and street lights and water. It's these types of spaces that make community, and Te Manawataki and Te Papa provides that opportunity.
With the library, with the museum, and all of the other things that have been planned there are people things. They bring people together, they bring them to the space so that they can learn.
With the type of buildings that we're putting up there, it will be something that Tauranga will be very proud of.
It will instill a level of pride in our city that has been absent for some period of time.
Bringing some life back into the city and a reason for this community to celebrate this area and celebrate in this area.
From a development perspective, we're keen to show leadership from a sustainability point of view. So the buildings will be developed and designed using timber, passive solar heating, rainwater collection, planting, and all of those various types of things to try and demonstrate, I suppose, what a sustainable development might look like.
And I so hope that the final architecture of the place will reflect our history and our mana whenua position there. Yeah.
The Otamataha Trust holds the contract for the cultural elements in all of the buildings and grounds, and so we have engaged artists from the local hapu to do that design work.
Myself and others were approached to be mandated creatives to produce works of art to be integrated into the architecture, waterfront developments and so forth.
We've been called in to tell the narrative of this whenua. We've been called in to make sure that working together alongside council, that our narratives and our stories from our land, from our whenua, from our beautiful moana, that they're there to be seen, there to be heard.
The language of art is something that's really important, and it's that expression, used through art or carving, weaving, those sorts of things which record the history of those places. And that's a little bit what art can do for Te Manawataki o Te Papa. Through art and form, we can tell these stories.
Iwi today, we've got hardly anything. We can't even find land to build houses on for our whānaus. So it's real, so it really is real. But the point is that where we are with Te Manawataki Hinaine now, it's a good space. It's a good space because that, I guess the moe the vision that Piri saw in terms of what had happened with the military, the church, it was an opportunity for us to try and put it back to where it needed to be.
As a project of this nature, it's not without its challenges.
But it also carries with it some really great opportunities.
The opportunity to really meaningfully give people a reason to be proud of their city centre.
And the opportunity to work together is just really exciting.
True partnership and not a lopsided council.
We have to listen to each other. I think that's the key part in the discourse as we move forward.
We have to come together and remember the histories so we learn from the lessons of past in order to move forward.
Learn your culture, right, and all that it has to offer. But don't forget, learn the other culture as well.
This has just been a special opportunity to work with mana whenua, to understand history and play a very, very small part in trying to rectify something that happened nearly 200 years ago, and to create something special for our community that will support and serve and provide experience and opportunity for our city for the next 200 years.
Nō reira ko whakamutu taku kōrero, I runga te kaupapa o tēnei rā, pai ana rawe te kōrero i Wanganui. Tātou nō reira, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou ngā rangatira, tēnā tātou kapo. Ka huri.